this table where we laughed and talked all day. So long ago, love was offered. The joy of being together made you want to stay. Take me back.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Life with Nana. I'm Nana, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Today, we're going to be making Suzanne's tomato basil tortellini soup. And you can make this spicy or non-spicy. Now, her recipe does say spicy, but I'm making it non-spicy because Nana doesn't like the heat. So, and I'm only going to make a half a recipe because I'm going to be the only one who will enjoy this. Papa's not a big tomato fan, so I'm just going to make this for me. And I'll probably freeze some of it, and that way I'll have 2 or 3 meals off of it, you know. But I do want to thank Suzanne. If you guys read the comments, you'll see Suzanne in our comments a lot. And you'll also... you probably heard me mention her name a couple of times on the channel. So I've been asking for everybody to send me a recipe, and Suzanne had already sent me this one long before I asked. But if you do have a recipe that you would like to see me cook on the channel, you can email it to me. You can send it to me through in the comments, whatever you want to do. If you send it in the comments, then everybody gets to see it. If you'll send it to me, I will do my very best to make it. All right, so I'm going to need some olive oil in my pan. And it doesn't say how much, so I'm just going to put a little bit in the bottom. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be cutting up some garlic and onion to saute. And we're just going to let that get translucent while we're getting some other things done. I'm cutting these up quite small, but you cut them up the way that you want to. You could also, I'm assuming you could also puree this if you want a smooth texture. I kind of like the idea of the diced tomatoes and the onions and all that. My granddaughter just came in, so let me get this going on the stove. And the puppy's going to bark because somebody is in the house. Anyway, let me get this cut up and get it going. Alright, so I have in my pan here a half an onion. And I had 4 really small cloves of garlic that I had roasted and put in the freezer. So these were real tiny. And I like garlic, so you can do what you want to do about that. My water here is boiling. It's been well salted. That just means I put quite a bit of salt in this. And I'm going to put the tortellini in here. All right, when it comes back up to a boil, I'm going to cook this for 10 minutes. And it's not going to take all of it because I'm making half of a recipe. I'll turn this up. I need to set this timer to 9 minutes because I've been messing around. All right, so when that gets done, we're going to pour that into a strainer and run some cold water over it and let it. Well, I'll probably get out half of it and put it in my soup, and then the rest of it will cool it down, and that way I can just put it in the refrigerator. So I've got this turned back up. Now I have to, let me see what my recipe calls for here. It calls for 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And I won't be using all of that. I'll be using part of that. It calls for 2 cans of tomato soup. I only will be using 1. And then 2 cans of milk, which I have right here. I'll only be using 1. a tablespoon of dried basil, red chili flakes if you like that. I'm not going to be putting that in. And then one 14-ounce can of chicken broth. So I'm going to half that. I've got my chicken broth here. 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now here, I was not going to go to the store for a can of tomato paste when I have my freeze-dried tomato powder here. Make sure I get this, keep this stirred. You want your onions to get translucent, so I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. We don't want to scorch these. And what I'll do is, so I need 3 tablespoons. So I'm going to take a pretty good heaping tablespoon of my tomato powder. And you can see how that is. And then I'm going to start out with a tablespoon of water, and we'll see where we're at. You may have to put a little bit more. So let's do 1 tablespoon. And you have to let it kind of sit for just a few minutes for it to really incorporate and for it to rehydrate. You don't want to overdo your liquid at first because you want it to hydrate well. You want to give it just a minute. I can already tell that this is going to need a little bit. I think it was Suzanne who actually asked me, how do you rehydrate this? What ratio? And it really depends on what you're making. So you can see how that's just turned right back into a really good tomato paste. And that's going to be plenty for what we're doing today. My onions are kind of browning a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and get this liquid going. And let's see. So 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And again, I'm just going to use about half of this. Y'all know me, something like this, if it has a little more tomatoes in it, I'm not going to be sad about that. Whew, that is hot. We want to turn this way down because we're going to be adding cream and milk to this, and we don't want that to get to cooking, you know what I mean? So that's going to be added at the end. So far that looks really good. And it says 2 cans of Campbell's soup mix. I bought store brand because y'all, Campbell's soup has gone through the roof. And then you're going to need that can for the milk, so I'm going to hold on to that. I could have put this in a much smaller pan. I'm so used to cooking, you know, like big, but this will be just fine. We're going to go ahead and add our tablespoon of basil. And I'm going to go ahead and add my tomato paste. And had I added more water to that, it would have been what the recipe calls for, halving it like this. I think I actually put too much basil in this, but that's okay. I happen to like basil. It smells wonderful, y'all. Already. And we need a 14.5 ounce can, and that's what this is. So let me get something to pour these up in. So we need about, you're going to use a whole can if you're doing the whole recipe. I'm doing half, so I need half a can. This looks so wonderful. It really smells good. Alright, so we have our garlic, our onion, our tomatoes, our tomato soup. We're going to add 2 cans of, the recipe calls for 2 cans, so I'm going to use 1 of milk. We already put our basil in. We put our chicken broth in. We put our tomato paste. And then it calls for heavy cream. And so I'm doing this on low. You want it warm, from what I understand. I've never made this recipe before, but you don't want this up boiling. You're just gonna, she said do not boil since it contains cream. So while this is kind of sitting here, you know, getting kind of married together, I'm gonna get my Parmesan. Okay. So I need 1 can of milk. You can see I'm using the milk from the Dollar Tree. The recipe calls for 2 cans of milk, and since I'm halving this, I'm just going to do 1. That looks lovely already. And then it calls for a 1/2 cup of heavy cream or milk. So we're going to put in 1/4 cup. And I've got this on as low as my stove will go. Y'all probably heard that beeping. Alright, so I'm going to take about half of these tortellini out, and we're going to put that in our soup. Let's see if that looks about like half. And then the rest of these I'm going to put over here, and we're going to get those cooled down. Alright, so I wanted to get that cooled off because I'm going to put that in the refrigerator since I'm only making half of a recipe. Got a lot going on over here today. This looks fabulous, y'all. This just looks absolutely beautiful. Alright, let's make sure we got everything in there. We need 1/4 cup. And I'm going to go ahead and put the 1/4 cup. Actually, I'm just going to do what Nana normally does, and I'm just going to add what I think will be good. If y'all want to be precise, be precise. But this is how I cook, so, oops, splattered it out. I'm going to get a taste because I want to see if it needs any salt. Lovely flavor. Really, really good. But I do think it needs some salt. Yeah, much better. If you ever taste anything like this and you think, that's missing something, it's usually salt. Now we don't want this to come up to a boil, of course. We just want it to get real hot and let the cheese melt. And then what I'm going to do is just turn it off. Let the flavors just kind of marry in here. And I think it was the last video, it might have been the one before that, that kind of run together sometimes on me. We were talking about making Russian tea. And someone said, I haven't had that in forever. And I think it was Suzanne, actually. And so I thought I would show you quickly how to do that. So I had everything that we needed. This is really good, y'all. Let's see how this tortellini tastes. It's got such a depth of flavor. It's so wonderful. This is so good. So I'm just going to turn it off and just let it kind of sit for a few minutes. Well, okay. So I have myself a little bowl here, and this looks just amazing. It just looks so good, and I know it's going to taste so good. Y'all, bravo. Suzanne, this is wonderful. So good. So good. One more bite. I'm so happy to have that recipe because that is something that I will make and put in the freezer for myself. Like I said, Papa's not huge on tomatoes, just the tomato base, you know, but Nana loves it. A lot of times when I was a little girl, my mom would always, a lot of times she would get up and she would make grits and toast and eggs and all the things, you know. And now, of course, I love that and I appreciate that. But back then, I would get a can of Campbell's tomato soup and I would eat that before school. And she would be like, I don't know how you eat that this early in the morning. But she bought it for me because she knows how much I liked it. She knew how much I liked it. Been thinking a lot about my mom lately. My mom's been gone for 25 years, and the anniversary of her death is coming up in December. So, yeah, I miss her. All right, so this is Russian tea, and I used to make this for my friend Joyce all the time. And if I forgot to make her some, or she ran out, she would always kind of hint around, you know, and ask me to make her some. So anyway, we're going to make some of the Russian tea in honor of her today. Because her birthday's coming up in December too. And I miss her so much. So many people gone, y'all. So many people gone. And all their anniversaries and things like that, the date of their anniversary, the death and things like that seem to fall between September and Christmas. And a lot of their birthdays fall during that time too. All right, so I grew up calling this Russian tea. I Googled the recipe to see if that's what it was actually called, and if this is what popped up, and it's what I used to make. So the first thing I need is 2 cups of white sugar. I have 1/3 of a cup measuring cup in there, so let's get that out. This is 1 cup. I'm going to fill up my container. There we go. 2 cups of that. So I have 2 cups of white sugar in my bowl here, and I need 2 cups of orange flavored drinks such as Tang. You need the dry, of course. This is settled kind of. That's 1 cup. I'll take a chopstick and get this kind of, it's been in my cabinet for a little while. It wasn't out of date though, but it did kind of settle and get a little hardened up. That's going to be all right though. So 2 cups of that. And it says 1 cup of instant tea powder. Y'all, I went to the store because I don't usually have instant tea. Sometimes I keep it around, you know, just to make this with, but I was out. I can't get the top off of it. There we go. But all they had was iced tea with lemon. So this recipe calls for 1 3-ounce package of lemonade mix. So 3 ounces doesn't seem to me like it would be that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this. I might put a heaping amount in here. So 1 cup of instant tea. There we go. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. This makes this really wonderful in the fall and winter time because it is just so good. Teaspoons, not tablespoons. I have to watch myself. So there's 1. And there's 2. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cloves. Now this is really what gives it its distinct taste. Those cloves in there. All right. And all we're going to do is just mix all this up together. We're just going to make sure that it's well combined. And this really looks pretty in a jar. Looks like I got it well combined. I washed a bunch of jars yesterday. So they've been through. I know I'm going to need another one, but I'm going to make sure this is incorporated well. So let's just go ahead and get 2 out, along with our canning funnel. Papa actually found at a yard sale, he bought this bag, and it had 2 or 3 of these in it, and it had some jar lifters, and it had some of those rubber seals for the really old jars. And so I've got several of these now, which makes it so nice. You can really smell the cloves. I hope the lemon in the tea doesn't outshine the tea. Maybe it won't. I have some in this jar, and I'm just going to mix it together so it will be, like, and you see it looks a little different because it has the tea separated from the lemon. So but it smells good. Everything smells wonderful. All right. Let's fill up this jar. Try to make it all look kind of alike. I think using this, you're not going to see the brown flecks of the tea quite as much as you do, if any. But this is all they had, so this is what I'm using. So I will have enough Russian tea for a long, long time. And I just put a nice sturdy lid on there. If I could get that to go on. There we go. And I have some of these lids. These work good for this. So I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today as we made Suzanne's wonderful spicy tortellini tomato soup. Mine's not spicy, but I could see how this might be good with some pepper flakes in it. So I might try it. I'm not big on pepper flakes, but I might try it just to see. I'm gonna have one more bite. Go. Try this recipe and let Suzanne know how much you love it. It is so good. I love it. I want to thank Suzanne for sending me this recipe. I hope you all will try it. Remember that Nana loves you. Remember I'm so, so proud of you. And you always have a friend here.